So, session 6, part 1. There are 2 parts to this. The first part, our this reflection this afternoon, we'll talk about the boundaries in the Hebrew Scripture, what we in the Christian church call Old Testament. But we are in college call it Hebrew Scripture out of respect for the Jews. They don't like to hear New Testament because there is no, they don't have New. So, a kingdom without walls. One of the most well-remarked words in the first creation account in Genesis 1 is Tov, translated in English as good. And it appears 7 times. It was good, it is good, it is good. Until the last one, it is very good. Let there be, there is, and God says that this is good. Tov. There's another one that's worth noticing. The other key word in the story of Genesis 1 is bedel. Bedel. Of course, in Hebrew, you do not have the vowels. No? So, it means to separate, to distinguish, to divide, and it appears 5 times. So, those are the 2 key words, Tov and bedel. Exactly. The goodness of the universe is itself a matter of order, boundaries, and distinctions. What makes creation good is because there are clear boundaries and distinctions. From the start, you can see the distinction in the way the story is narrated. On the first day, there's light and darkness. On the second day, there's upper and lower waters. Then on the third day, there's land and sea. And then on the fourth day, you have sun and moon. And then on the 5th day, you have birds and fish. And on the 6th day, land animals and humankind. Very clear distinction. And it is narrated that way. So, in fact, there's a Jewish ceremony called Havdalah, which marks and consecrates precisely these distinctions and boundaries. Havdalah. Okay. Goodness is order. Evil is disorder. An act or person or entity in the wrong place, that's disorder. That is disorder. I used to tell our workers in the Binuligan, because whenever I walk around, I say, yung walis nandun. Where they work and they live it there. Huh? So, I cannot understand why. So I was telling them, pagka isang bagay wala sa lugar, ang tawag doon, basura. so, the word avera is equivalent to English transgression, meaning to stay across a border, to enter forbidden territory. You cross the boundary. That's avera. Transgression. Remember, we call sin transgression. You cross the boundary. Okay? Creation itself is seen as the slow emergence of order from chaos. In the beginning, there was chaos. There was nothing. And suddenly, the Spirit of God, the Ruah of God, swept over the waters and there was order. And it was evening, Erev, and it was morning, Boker. Erev means an undifferentiated mixture of elements, disorder. Boker comes from the root meaning to reflect, to contemplate, to seek clarity. There was Erev and there was Boker. Violence, injustice, conflict are all forms of disorder. Failure to respect the integrity of each life forms of disorder. This is the context of the sin of the builders of Babel. The sin of Babel. Heaven and earth is the most fundamental boundary in the one created. It is the one created first. That's the first thing that was created. Boundary between heaven and earth. That's the most fundamental order. The differentiation between heaven and earth. Heaven, look at that. Huh? God is God. Humanity is humanity. God belongs to heavens. Humanity belongs to earth. There can be no blurring of the boundaries. There should be no blurring of boundaries. And that's why, for the Jews, to inculcate this respect for inherent boundaries, Judaism has many hukim, statutes. Don't mix milk, which is life, with meat, death. Don't mix wool, animal product, with linen, vegetable product. Sowing in a field with mixed kinds of seed is avera, transgression. You're mixing. Di ba that's the same as the Muslim haram? Something like that. So when God says, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear, it seems very clear that it is His will for these divisions to remain unbridged. It has to be. So creatures which appear to span different realms must live in defiance of God's discrimination and should be ingested since they should not be ingested since they behave contrary to holy creation. So lobster, for instance, have no scales or fins. Few of the sorts of the things most sea creatures do and are obviously designed for moving through the water. Lobsters sports legs, which are clearly an apparatus designed for life on land. Likewise, many birds of prey walk on legs but can fly too. And because of that, they are also forbidden food. So don't eat anything that flies and crawls. So, thus, endowed with a body type which apparently transgresses God's natural boundaries, they were pronounced abomination. So we should get rid of our pigeons. A similar code of conduct governs sexual behavior. So, Howard, take note. A holy man cannot, for instance, have sex with a woman who is menstruating, since that would entail mixing of blood and semen, fluids which, according to the priestly logic, should never commingle. Get that? Nor can a high priest marry a widow, divorced woman, or prostitute, because in doing so he would cause his seed to be joined in the same organ with that of the other man. And the structure of God's divisible universe seems to suggest different men's semen ought not to mix. From the same logic comes the injunction against male homosexuality. It is interesting to note, so that's why homosexuality, you are mixing semen. Should not happen. But it is interesting to note that Leviticus includes no such injunction against same-sex activity among women. Presumably because behavior of this sort does not, at least on the surface, involve the conjunction of immiscible fluids. This is the sin of the builders of the Tower of Babel. Their aspiration to reach heaven is a transgression. When human beings try to become more than human, they quickly become less than human. Only God is God. Only when God is God can man be man. A world of Tov, good, is a world of Havdalah, boundaries and limits. And those who cross those boundaries and transgresses these limits make a name for themselves. And what is the name they made for themselves? Crossing boundaries? Babel, meaning chaos, confusion, and loss of that order. That's why it's called Babel. They transgressed and saw chaos, which is a precondition of both nature, the world God creates, and culture, the world we create. And what is our next topic tomorrow morning is part 2, the kingdom without walls. Jesus breaks those boundaries.
Please don't forget to like and subscribe
to our YouTube channel,
Oblate TV.